before I talk about the show, I want to tell you a little story. And it is kind of related to the show because I haven't had anything to drink in several hours because I'm not paying $7 for a water bottle. Last week, I had a migraine. And I'm like, oh man, this sucks. Because any of you who've had a migraine know having a migraine sucks. And I pulled a Gatorade, ice cold Gatorade out of the cooler, and I cracked it open, and I drank like that much of it, like a fraction of it, and immediately my migraine was gone like 90%. Just clear head the rest of the day. Just, if that's not the dictionary definition of a beverage hitting the spot, I have no idea what is. So, if you don't mind. Oh, yes, that's amazing. Orange is my favorite. Oh, man. Orange is my favorite Gatorade flavor in case you ever want to buy me Gatorade. Anyways, I saw Clutch and Primus. I went to see Primus. Clutch was just the opening act, so I kind of had to be there for them too. I didn't get a new t-shirt because there weren't really any new interesting Primus t-shirts there. Oh, and the vinyl at the merch counter was like $60, and I'm like, what? Like, okay, $40 is kind of understandable, but 60, that's really pushing it. But so anyways, I show up in line because doors open at 6:30. I showed up really early, like a little after 5, because I like being close to the stage if it's an artist I'm a big fan of, because I want to be close to the stage for that when it's standing room. And nobody, contrary to most concerts like this I go to, nobody in line was really very social. It wasn't until I got into the venue and I wasn't in the front row, but I was in like the second row where I met some friendly people and finally started talking. And one of the people next to me had a tattoo on his arm of Les Claypool, like it was crazy, just like Les in his hipster suit get up and glasses with his bass, and it was awesome. And the security person working for Live Nation who was there, the people in front of me were talking to him, and like they were just talking about shows he's worked at and shows they've been to, and he's like, oh, well, this is my first Primus concert. I'm not allowed to turn around and look at the stage while I'm working, but I can at least tell you how it sounded. And after the show, he was like, oh yeah, they rocked. But anyways, first artist, Clutch. Look, I don't know anything about Clutch. I saw them live once before when they were with Mastodon, and like they're a band that makes like classic rock, reminiscent of like early heavy metal inspired stuff. Like they're like a perfectly fine band. There's not really much I can say about them. And they went out and they did a good show for what it was. Although there were 2 noteworthy incidents, and I wrote the set list down to at least what I remember from Primus. I don't remember any Clutch songs. All I remember is they played a new song they haven't released on an album yet, but there's a video for it on YouTube, and one of the songs was about a jacked up Ford or something. But anyways, their front man tripped over some wires. Well, he didn't trip. Like got his caught and like stumbled back, and he started like wrapping his microphone wire up, and he says there's too much spaghetti on stage, which was funny and got an involuntary laugh out of me. Second thing, there was a song. It's the song with the cowbell. The front man has a cowbell and has a cowbell for that song, and during that song, the kick drum broke or something, and they had to stop the song, and it was apparently a quick fix. I don't know exactly what was wrong, but they fixed it in like 30 seconds, and they just restarted the song after that. Anyways, Primus. So, let's rewind back to when I was 15 years old. I started learning bass because I had been playing guitar for 5 years at that point. The transition to bass was very smooth for me, and I picked it up very quickly, and my guitar teacher said, because I was like into Rush, especially at the time, like, and I was a big Geddy Lee fan, he was like, oh, if you love music with crazy bass stuff, you should check out this band called Primus. Their bassist is crazy. And I did, and I admit at first I thought it was a little weird, but it grew on me, and then I really started to love them. And without Primus, I might not have discovered Buckethead, my favorite guitarist, because one day I was looking up something about Primus, and something about Primus with Buckethead came up, and I just saw like this random dude with a mask and Michael Myers mask and bucket, and with Primus on stage circa 1998, 1999, and I'm like, who's this clown? And I thought, well, let me just look up one guitar solo from him just to see what he was about. And the solo was like a compilation of Big Sur Moon with some nubbing or something, and I was just blown away because it was like nothing I'd ever seen before. But anyways, the show. So, they started with Damn Blue Collar Tweakers, and I don't think they played that song at the first Primus concert I went to, which was, I believe, the first show on this tour, the Chocolate Factory tour, where they played the Primus and the Chocolate Factory album in its entirety during the second set. And overall, I think there's the concert review for that concert way back on my channel. If you go to my videos and keep scrolling down, you'll eventually find it. But I think that concert was better just because it had more energy, and just they were more energetic, and it translated into the show. And I think there's multiple reasons for that. One of them is it was their first show on the tour, so they were energetic, ready to get going with that. The second is they had Herb with them, their original drummer, and this was the first major tour they had with Herb in like a decade. So they were excited to have Herb back, and that probably translated into more energy too. And their drummer that they had today, I don't know, I couldn't tell who it was. It didn't quite look like Herb, unless Herb like grew his hair out a little bit and has a beard now, or it could have been Jay Lane. I don't know, just behind, and the set they had didn't look familiar. It didn't look like Herb's set or what I remember Jay's set looking like. But whatever, whoever that drummer was, I mean, he was great. Larry, in my opinion, Primus keeps him down a little in terms of his showcasing his guitar playing abilities, because he's he can be very versatile and play some very interesting stuff. Sometimes it breaks through in Primus's music, but the focus of Primus's music is obviously Les Claypool, and he's in the spotlight. And I mean, Les is just an incredible bassist, like flawless tonight. Just he makes it look so easy, and uh, just his on-stage presence as a frontman is just awesome. But anyways, so Damn Blue Collar Tweakers was great. Then they played Too Many Puppies. I personally was never a huge fan of that song, but it was good. Then they played More on TV, which I personally think is an underrated Primus song. I really like that song. They didn't play it at the first show I went to, but at this show, they played it, and it was awesome, and I loved it. And before the song, Les didn't really talk to the crowd very much during the show, but before the song, he said, I wrote this song during a time where I thought it was crazy how all this mundane stuff was being put in the spotlight of the media over what's more critical, and now this song is more relevant than ever, in my opinion. And the reason I wrote down the set list is because Primus is known for changing their set list every single night, so fans who go to multiple shows on one tour will get a different experience every night. Then after that, they had Fish On, which is a song that lends itself to jamming because it has a long, sparse intro and a long, spacey bridge. And I personally never really cared for that song very much. It's mostly just a jam song. Then they played the one song from Primus and the Chocolate Factory, Candyman, which was the first of 3 songs they had with Les's upright electric bass. And that was the song where you could tell Les was the most energetic about, because it's a new song and it's like a song he hasn't played tour after tour after tour for 20 years, like the stuff on their first few albums. Like, this is something they just came up with like 3-4 years ago, so it's still fresh and they're still excited to play it. And you could tell he was more energetic about that song, and he had a pig mask on for that song for some reason. It would have been more, it fit Mr. Crinkle better, which was the next song. And on the monitors in the background, they just played the music video for the original song as the song on stage was playing. Yeah, instrumentally, Mr. Crinkle's a really weird song. I think the music video for it is very interesting, how it's all one take and it's just all these circus performers, and it's kind of sad that MTV only aired the video like 6 times total, and supposedly they only aired it at like 11 p.m. and 5 a.m. and just obscure times like that. Anyways, next upright bass song was Jimmy's on Smack, sorry. And I personally never really cared for that song a whole lot. Then they played a song I could not identify. I don't remember ever hearing it if I have heard it. But after that, he busted out the Carl Thompson 6-string rainbow bass. That's pretty signature for Primus. And first was Welcome to This World, which is a song I, again, don't really remember hearing, or if I did hear it, it didn't leave an impact on me. But we all know the 2 songs that Primus is known for using the 6-string bass. Jerry Was a Race Car Driver and My Name Is Mud. Uh, Actually, My Name Is Mud was first, then Jerry Was a Race Car Driver, and those were definitely the two songs the crowd was most enthusiastic about. Like, people were jumping the highest during that song. The pit was the biggest during that song. Those two songs, I'm sorry. Next song was a song I couldn't identify, but it was something about colors. That's all I remember. Like, I, I will admit right now, I'm not the hugest Primus fan in the world. Like, I really like their stuff, but I'm not like, uh, they're not like one of my. I wouldn't consider them one of my like top three bands. And last song that they closed with, interesting choice, was Frizzle Fry, and um, I always thought the second half of that song was really interesting, especially how like there's one section where it almost turns into like a thrash metal song, and Larry can like actually start shredding, and Les goes in the background a little to let Larry take the spotlight. Um, and they did not play Tommy the Cat, a song I'd like to see them play live at some point in my life, but they haven't at the two shows I've been to. They didn't play John the Fisherman again, and didn't play Winona's Big Brown Beaver again. Three Primus songs I really like that they didn't do. And I'm kind of surprised they didn't play Southbound Pachyderm, because that song is like one of their live staples, and it's a really awesome live song, and they played it on the first show I saw them at, and it was awesome. And yeah, overall, like, they're still Primus, they're still awesome, they still got it. Like, Les is still an incredible bassist, their music is still crazy, they can still put on an entertaining show. The first show I saw them at was more energetic and more entertaining, though. Um, I think that's just because, again, first show on the tour, first show with Herb in a long time. Um, but at this point, I can't talk anymore. At this point, Primus has been touring nonstop for something like 3 years now. I think they should just like relax, take a break, and come up with some new material. And I'm not talking about like another Primus and the Chocolate Factory thing where they take someone else's music and like put their Primus twist on it. I mean like a new Primus album of totally original material, like their first new original studio album since Green Naugahyde. And yeah, there's not much else to say other than if you're a fan of Clutch, they most likely won't disappoint. I wouldn't know though because I'm not a fan of Clutch. If you're a fan of Primus like I am and you want to see them live, go see them live. They still got it, and uh like Primus, like they're not like Rush or The Who at this point in their careers. Like, I bring those two up because those are two artists that have uh like they've had their 40th and 50th anniversary tours, and you don't know if they're ever going to perform live again. But Primus, they're going to be around for a long time, so if you miss them on this tour, don't worry about it. I think they're going to be around for like a good 20 or maybe even 30 more years. Like, they seem like they still got it in them, and I think they still have a lot of good original material left in them for some new studio albums. And yeah, not much else to say about that. If you love Primus, go see them.